Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to this week's Picks Against the Spread video brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. I am 6-0 in my last couple picks videos, so I've got a little bit of a good streak going here. I want to see if I can keep that mojo going this week when I'm talking about three really close games, really should be entertaining games. And all the spreads are very close on MyBookie right now. So let's just kind of get into it, starting off with the Cowboys going up to Indianapolis to face the Colts. The Cowboys are one of the hottest teams in football. They've won 5 straight. The Colts, meanwhile, have won 5 of their last 6, with their only loss being, of course, that 6-0 kind of out of nowhere loss to Jacksonville a couple weeks ago. Very intriguing matchup here. You kind of have one of the stingiest defenses in football against one of the hardest to pin down offenses in football. When I say that, I mean Andrew Luck is really good at distributing the ball to a whole bunch of people you've never even heard of. They're very good at running the ball. They're very good at not taking huge sacks and really staying on schedule. Not necessarily the most explosive offense in the world, but they're very good on third down. They're very efficient. They're very versatile. And I think when I look at this matchup, Frank Reich, he's the head coach and kind of offensive mastermind of the Colts. He knows Rod Marinelli and the Cowboys defense very well from his time in Philly. In fact, the last time he faced them, or the second to last time, because I won't cut the last time because the Eagles sat pretty much all their starters, but in the last real game that he called, or at least participated in coaching against Rod Marinelli, they lit him up for almost like 40 points. Like he knows this defense really well. He knows them inside and out. It's virtually the same personnel as last year. So he knows everything they like to do. He knows their strengths. He knows their weaknesses. He knows their tendencies. And I think when I look at this Colts offense, Ryan Kelly coming back, that's going to solidify one of the best offensive lines in football. If you can keep Andrew Luck protected, and you have Frank Reich calling the plays against a defense that he knows really well, I personally like the Colts to cover their 3-point favorite in this game. I know a lot of people are thinking that Dallas is easily the hottest team in the league, and you can't really pick against them, but for me, just looking at the matchups, a protected Andrew Luck, plus a really good play caller, plus a really good rushing defense for the Colts, which kind of matches up well against the Cowboys offense on the other end of the ball. Like, if you can keep Zeke pinned down, I feel like that offense is very vulnerable, which I think has been demonstrated throughout the year. You know, I think Zach Martin being out is huge. It's not that it was easy to run the ball on the Colts anyway, but it's certainly even harder if your all-pro right guard is out. The Cowboys are just, this is not a good matchup for them, I think is the point I'm trying to make here. Personnel-wise, scheme-wise, familiarity-wise, like I get a lot of bad vibes looking at this game for the Cowboys in a similar kind of way that I've had good vibes looking at games that maybe people didn't expect them to win in the past. Like this one, I don't really see a great matchup for them on the field. They match up well against a lot of teams. The Colts are not one of them. So give me the Colts to cover -3 all day long. I really like that line for them. Let's move on to another huge game. This one is just, it's truly massive. It has a lot of implications in the AFC, not just for these two teams, but for literally the entire conference. And that's the Patriots going up to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. When I look at this game, what it comes down to is discipline. And by that, I mean, the Steelers are actually statistically a better team in almost every metric out there, at least in most metrics that I've typically looked to. When I evaluate a team, like the Steelers are actually ahead of the Patriots in most of them. But in the metrics that always trip up the Steelers when they play the Patriots, meaning the discipline-oriented stats like penalties or, situational stats like turnovers, field position, all that kind of stuff, the things that always really bog the Steelers down and cause them to lose a lot of games, they're very far behind the Patriots, as they usually are, really. I mean, the Patriots are always, one of the top teams in penalties and turnovers and all that kind of stuff. But, that's always what gets in the way of the Steelers getting over that Patriots hump. I mean, they are 0 of their last 5 against New England. Doesn't matter where they play. Doesn't matter what the situation is. Doesn't matter, who's on a streak, who's on a down year, who's on an up year. Like, they can't beat the Patriots. And it's because they're not a very disciplined football team. In terms of situational football and just having like situational awareness, they're not a very aware football team. They lose a lot of games against teams that they should beat, and at their core, it's because they're not very disciplined and they're not very situationally aware. And so when you're going up against a team that is the most disciplined team in the league and the most situationally competent team in the league, you're probably going to lose those games. It doesn't matter how talented you are. Like, personally, I think the Steelers are more talented than the Patriots, and they have been for a while. But when it comes to the things that matter to beating a Bill Belichick coach team, they've never been on their level. So even though the Patriots are only favored by 2 points and it is on the road, and maybe people have seen a little bit of a crack in the arbor this year in New England, I'm still taking them every single time, because when it comes down to beating Pittsburgh, it comes down to discipline. It always does. And the Patriots are just flat out more disciplined. I know that's kind of like a hot take, and it's hard to support that with stats and film and yada, 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 but just if you watch all these games, and I've watched every single Patriots and Steelers game for the last, I can't even count how many years. That's just always the storyline. It's always discipline and mistakes. So give me the Patriots to cover -2 on the road. I'll take that all day long. That's pretty easy money to me. And that brings me to our last game, which is the Saints going on the road on Monday night to take on the Panthers. Weirdly, the first game against the Panthers they've had all year. They played the Panthers twice in their last 3 weeks of the season, which I can't remember the last time I saw a team play a divisional opponent twice in the last 3 weeks to close out a year, but I don't know. That's just how it ended up. Again, New Orleans is one of those teams where people have maybe kind of seen a crack in the armor in the last couple weeks, and perhaps maybe I contributed to that with my episode on the Saints' offensive struggles against Dallas. But the thing you have to remember, and again, I watched a lot of tape on the Panthers and I watched a lot of tape on the Saints, is just because one team is really able to exploit another team's weaknesses doesn't mean that every other team is going to be able to do that. Because a lot of the times it comes down to, do you have the personnel to match up and exploit those same weaknesses that, maybe Dallas just exploited? Or, in the Rams case, can every team match up like the Bears did? No. So when I look at, the Saints going on the road to take on the Panthers, can the Panthers defense match up in the same way that the Dallas defense did? To me, absolutely not. Their best corner is Dante Jackson, who I feel like he's a really good corner, really good rookie corner. I don't feel like he is big and physical enough to take on a receiver like Michael Thomas, who won't run away from you, but he'll just kind of beat you up at the line of scrimmage. I feel like Jackson's he's great against, speed merchants and route runners and all that kind of stuff, but just somebody who can flat out beat you up on a release, I don't think he can handle Thomas in that kind of way. And not to mention the fact that while Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis and that whole Panthers linebacking core is probably the best zone coverage linebacking core not named Jalen Smith and Sean Lee and Leighton Vander Esch, like, they are a very, very, very good zone coverage linebacking core. I don't think that any of them can cover Alvin Kamara one-on-one in man coverage situations. And so when I'm talking about, the Dallas versus New Orleans and the Carolina versus New Orleans, Dallas stopped New Orleans by playing a lot of man coverage on third down, going into dime packages, matching them up, double teaming Thomas, and then playing man coverage everywhere else. I don't think the Panthers can do that. Like, I don't think that they can put somebody alone on Alvin Kamara and stop him like the Cowboys did. I don't feel like they have a corner like, the Cowboys have Byron Jones, where if you want to leave him one-on-one with Thomas, I don't think that the Panthers can have the luxury of doing that. So, matchup-wise, like, yes, I do acknowledge that the Saints have a very easy to read tendency on offense, and I do feel like coaches are going to start to figure them out, especially in the playoffs. If not already, they've already started to figure them out. But even if you figure out somebody's scheme, you still have to have the players to exploit that, and I don't think the Panthers have the players to exploit that. So that's kind of my long-winded way of saying, yes, give me the Saints -6.5 on the road, because even though there are exploitable tendencies, this is not the team that can exploit them, at least not in my opinion. To me, this might be a rough one. Even if the line was higher than 6.5, I still might take it. So that's just my personal thoughts on the game. So to recap, I am taking Indy -3. I like that matchup for them. I am taking New England -2. I love the discipline advantage for them. And I am taking New Orleans -6.5. I love that matchup for them. So that'll wrap it up for me this week. Hopefully I go 3-0 yet again this week for the third week in a row. That would be great for me. And if you do want to bet on any of these games as I went through them, I got all of these lines from MyBookie. You can find them at the link in the description below. If you enter promo code Brett, by the way, at that link, when you sign up and deposit, you can get up to a 50% deposit bonus on any deposit up to $1,000, which basically just gives you 50% extra credit to use on these bets on the site exclusively. And if you win any bets with those credits, you just get to keep it as real money. Like, they just give you money as if it's a real bet, but it's free. So it's basically, they're giving you free money, which you can then turn into even more actual free money. So it's a really good deal, especially if you're going to bet on these games anyway. So check that out at the link in the description below. Again, promo code Brett gets you that bonus on sign up. Thank you guys again. I will be back soon, ideally tomorrow, with another full film room episode on the Bears and Rams game from last Sunday night. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. And until then, later.